The following is a production by an independent producer. The views and opinions expressed are those of the producer and/or participants. They do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of DATV, its board of trustees, or this cable system.
The College of Education and Human Services at Wright State has also had involvement of African Americans in various departments for many, many years. One of the persons who made a significant contribution to the College of Education and to Wright State, Dr. Oris Amos, who came in 1975 as assistant professor in special education. Upon her retirement in 1988, Oris was a full professor, and she had been successful in obtaining certification for several programs within the College of Education. Oris speaks to us about her many contributions. Our guest today is Dr. Oris Amos, Professor Emeritus from Wright State University. Thanks so much for joining us today, Oris. Oris has spent about 13 years here at Wright State in the Department of Special Education in the College of Education and Human Services. Oris, tell me a little bit about what you had done prior to Wright State that made Wright State want to hire you, want them to bring you on board.
Well, my teaching expands over the nursery career through the university level. I taught 2 years at Ohio State in the special education department, and then I moved to Otterbein, and I taught 4 years at Otterbein College. So it was while I was at Otterbein that I was recruited twice. I was recruited once, and I didn't because I had some things that I was doing at Otterbein that I wanted to continue to do. The second time around, I accepted the offer to come.
That's great. They really want you to get back into them, and they ask for more. You mentioned that you were in special education at Ohio State, and then you came here in special education and as an associate professor in 1975.
I came here as an assistant. I was an assistant at Otterbein, and I tried to negotiate the associate, but I was told that I need to be here and to let people know the kinds of things that I could do to look at my skills before I could be moved into associate. So I was at Wright State for 2 years before I went through the process and won the associate professor. So I came in 75. In 1977, I was made an associate.
And then when did you become full professor?
2 years later.
I
really had my goal as 1 year, but it took 2 years.
That's great. Now, so that was 75, 77, and 79, you were a full professor.
Yes.
Now, tell me some of the things that you did during those intervening years from the time you came here as assistant professor until the time you were a full professor. What were some of the courses that you developed or programs that you developed in special education?
Well, when I was invited to come in 75, one of the reasons that I came, I was told that I could develop a certification program. So when I came, I developed a certification program in the education of the severely disabled. And they did not have courses in the orthopedically impaired, and that's one of my areas of expertise. So I developed courses in the orthopedically impaired for certification, and I developed a program in the education of the multiply handicapped for certification through the State Department.
Now, that's really outstanding, because I remember during the years that you were here that Wright State special education department had quite a reputation in those areas. And so what you're saying is that you developed those areas, and not only did you develop them, but you made sure that they were outstanding. Because I remember the guy from the State Department coming down saying that we were the leaders in those areas.
Well, we were one of the few universities to offer certification in those two areas, and consequently, the State Department looks upon us very favorably, and some other universities use some of the objectives that we developed to develop their courses in the multiply handicapped. So I'm real proud of the fact that I mothered a program
That's
here.
great. About how many students do you think came through those three programs?
Well, as you know, the education of the severely disabled is a low incidence, so there are fewer youngsters in that program than would be in some of the other programs. So our population, of course, in the courses would be somewhat smaller than when you're talking about the mildly disabled, because there's more of them. But I know our enrollment in courses reached as many as 30 in each one of those courses while I was here.
That's good. Now, you also developed a track or courses dealing with multiculturalism, didn't you?
I did, and that's one of the prides that I had here, because I chaired the committee that developed our objectives in the College of Education for teaching in a multicultural, pluralistic society. And we had people from across the campus who helped to develop those objectives. So I feel really good about that program too, because, you know, there was a lot of work to be done. Sometimes people don't understand when you develop courses for credit, especially in teacher education, they have to be approved by the State Department of Education. So there's a lot of work back and forth, being sure that those objectives are acceptable by the Board of Education and also acceptable by national learned societies. Because the state always asks about the national learned societies that will accept those objectives. So there's a lot of work that is done to develop courses that are certified that are in certification tracks.
Now, when do you recall the year that you developed the multicultural and pluralistic course?
I think that was in the 80s, the early 80s.
So we were ahead of some universities as far as having such a program and making it available to our students. I mean, now everybody's talking about diversity, but we started.
We were actually, again, in a leadership position in Ohio with a course in teaching in a multicultural, pluralistic society. Again, the State Department began to require that every teacher that went into public schools should have a course in teaching in a pluralistic society. And interestingly, some universities decided to piecemeal and put an objective here and there in teaching in a pluralistic society. The College of Education chose to have a course and then to have some strands that would run through all the other courses. And I chaired much of the work that was done in that area. Marianne Jones, Michael Williams, and I did a source book to be used in those classes that we had.
You know, it's really interesting. Not only were you a leader in developing those courses, but Wright State, because you were here at Wright State was a leader in that area, and I think a lot of people out in the community are not aware that we were pioneering in that area, particularly a lot of people in the Black community. So I think that's pretty outstanding that we did it and it was successful. During your teaching here at Wright State and at Ohio State in Audubon, did you ever encounter any challenges in the classroom from students or colleagues? And if you did, how did you turn those challenges into opportunities?
Oh, I feel that I helped to integrate all three of those universities because I was the first black faculty in special ed at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
I was the first black faculty member at Otterbein College.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
were you very lonely?
I was very busy. In each one of those cases that I was invited to those universities, they had special things that they wanted me to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I was extremely busy getting those objectives done that they had invited me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you look at, there's one black faculty member, I believe there's conflict because I think that one person is less threatening, and depending on what objectives are there for that person, it depends a great deal on what the conflict level. I think the more you get Afro-Americans involved in universities, sometimes the tend to set up a feeling of competition and of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So I did have my problems, especially at Ohio State. At the time I was there was a great deal of racism. There was a great deal of conflict about the fact that there were no representative numbers of black faculty at that large university.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a conflict that was ongoing while I was there.
Mm-hmm.
So I have had my difficulties, but I really feel that the conflicts have grown as the numbers of black faculty and black students have gone to predominantly white universities.
Do you have any suggestions as to, or any advice to a young black faculty person as to how they should go about handling these various challenges from colleagues and students that are, by and large, not related to course content, but more related to personality or some other kinds of beliefs that they may have about people?
I think the first thing is to be aware that they probably will have some conflicts and some feelings of rejection, feelings that, how did you happen to get this job, from some people. And I think if you go in knowing that that is possible, so that you're not, all of a sudden faced with that, that is helpful. I think to go in knowing that you have been invited because you have certain skills. And I think that's something that sometimes the university community and students don't understand, that when you're invited, often you have already been in competition with other people. And you are chosen because there is some special skill that you have. You're not chosen because of color, but you're chosen because there is a feeling that if we invite you, this is an objective, or these are some objectives we want you to carry out. So I think it's very important that supervisors of departments or chairpersons let it be known that we have invited this person because he or she is very good in this area, and the expectations for this person are very unique. And I think that sometimes that is not very well defined.
Yes, it's not communicated. Let's go, in order to move from assistant to associate to full, you had full professor. You also, in addition to teaching, had to make contributions in professional service, university service, and community service. Tell me about some of the community and professional service activities that you were involved in here at Wright State.
I think I've been on almost every committee that it's possible to be a member of. I was on some of the big committees. Have been the tenure committees, the library committee, the faculty affairs committee, and these are university committees. Then I have college committees, promotion and tenure committees that lead into the university committee, and I did serve on the promotion and tenure committee here at Wright State. So my committee load was always very heavy, both at my college level, at my faculty level in special education, and then I was very active in all the committees, or many of the committees here on campus. I was also on many of the committees that selected the administrators, the president, the vice president. So, I helped to elect 2 different presidents, and that really takes a lot of time. As far as the college, I had a lot of service on committees. In the community, I was often involved with school meetings. Schools often asked us as special ed faculty, especially when mainstreaming was just beginning. We were doing a lot of work with schools and meetings with speaking and so on. So I was quite busy in those service activities.
I was thinking about one of your awards here, and I'm doing this a little differently. This award is from the Ohio Federation Council for Exceptional Children Educator of the Year in 1982. Now, you were talking about your different service and your teaching. Tell me about what happened to make you the one selected, the recipient for this particular award. What were the criteria for selection?
Every year, a person is chosen over the state who has made outstanding contributions in special education, generally, not just in one unique area. One of my students submitted my name, nominated me, and her letter was beautiful. I virtually broke down in tears when they read the letter. I had not heard the letter, and the selection committee said that after having read that letter, that it was very easy to select me, but they did send in credentials for me, all the different areas which I taught, letters from students, the fact that I had served as president of the Council for Exceptional Children in Columbus, Ohio. We had somewhere around 300 students, had participated in many other activities regarding special education students. So they have many different people who are nominated. So to receive this Special Educator of the Year is quite competitive, and of course, I'm really proud of that.
That's really nice. And that came after you had received the Teacher Excellence Award from the College of Education in 1978, I believe it was, 79. What's the process involved there to determine who receives this award?
Again, you have student evaluations, and based on those student evaluations, you're in competition with other faculty members, and a committee, a selection committee chooses you based on your teaching and your teaching evaluation.
That's really impressive. Now, doing all of these different things that you were doing, the teaching, the service in the professional community and the university community, you had another responsibility, I guess I should say, and that responsibility was to the Black community, providing service to the Black community, because they often look to us to be active and involved in things that are of importance to our particular community. At the same time that we have that responsibility, that expectation, you have the traditional promotion, teaching service and scholarship kinds of things that you have to do. And so sometimes what our Black community want us to do is not always for community involvement that is helpful for promotion and tenure. So how do you reconcile those, how do you reconcile being involved in the Black community and then having to do all these other things that are required of you? How did you manage to do all of that, particularly since you were not going to get a whole lot of credit for what you did in the Black community? You know, what you do in the Black church really doesn't go towards P&T, but it means something to the community.
Well, I've never wanted to divorce myself from who I am. And I am African American, and I like being an African American. I have always had a life other than my professional life. So in being sure that I didn't become a marginal person, because I think you can engage so much in a white community and forget the black community, I think that you can become marginal or peripheral on in your own a cultural community. So I have always been a member for a long period of time, a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and of course, being a sorority person yourself, you know how many different projects and activities we have to perform in the community. So I have chosen over the years to usually be chairperson of social action in Delta Sigma Theta sorority. That way I get to do my pet political projects and social projects. So with Delta, I have been able to participate in the black community in social action, political kinds of things. I belong to a women's group in Columbus. It's social political, and we give scholarships just as Delta Sigma Theta sorority gives scholarships. And I'm usually on those scholarship committees because if you're working on a university campus, you know it's like 12, 14-hour a day. If you're on a scholarship committee, you can choose your time to read scholarships, to interview students. So I have chosen projects and activities that I could deal with on my own time rather than, going to a lot of meetings. I've been involved heavily in churches. Wherever I've been, I've always been involved with churches and with young people. Have always served on scholarship committees. I'm on, I bet, 7 or 8 different scholarship committees because you get that expertise of reading, scholarship nominations and so on. So it's very easy to go from group to group and do scholarship. So it's been through club membership and sorority membership and churches that I have stayed in contact with the African American community. That's very important to me.
And then by choosing the area of working in with scholarships, that relates to your work, your teaching, and so you have a connection there that you would not necessarily have, say, if you were involved with another type of project in the community.
Right, because I brought my scholarship expertise over to the university. I've served on Belinga Center scholarship committees. I've served on the university scholarship committees. So it's sort of like a continuum of the kinds of activities that I've done.
I'm glad that you explained it that way, because I think a lot of times we don't know how to make time to do all of these different things, and at the same time coordinate our schedule in such a way that it's beneficial and we aren't adding a lot of additional time to our already busy schedule. That's very good. The other thing that you mentioned briefly was that you and Drs. Jones and Williams wrote a source book on multiculturalism. Tell me about some of your other scholarly activities.
I did a book we did our resource book in multiculture. I also did a research book in teaching the multiply handicapped at the time when there was probably only one good text in that area. And we were talking about how you get everything done. I had 2 contracts to write this book for a national company, and I let my second deadline go because I think I was on one of the presidential search committees. And so, I bring that up because if you're talking about new faculty, you almost have to decide selfishly that I have to get this done. And that was one of the things that in doing all these other things, I let go, which was a fairly important thing. However, this source book was used by some other faculty at other universities, which I'm very pleased about, and I hope to come back to that now that I have the time. I've done that, and I think my Vita shows that I have 8 or 9 articles that I've done in national refereed journals. Also, when you're talking about doing objectives for 2 or 3 courses, those are considered scholarly activities, especially at the time that we came through, because when I came through Wright State, we were more in the developmental stage, and we were developing a lot of programs. And so to develop objectives for courses at that time was seen as a scholarly activity, and it certainly should be.
Okay, you have really been busy teaching, providing service, writing, and in addition to that, you have informally served as a mentor to faculty and students. Tell me how you got involved in doing that.
Well, I like to share, and I like teamwork, and I found that in scholarly activities and so on, sometimes you do more work if you're working with someone because you're motivated to stay on task. So the idea of sharing, the idea of teaming always appealed to me. And so with new faculty, I have been very open to, if there were projects, to work with them, to help them, and they helped me. So, and I think you learn a great deal, too, from teaming and sharing. So that's just part of my personality.
So what kind of mentoring did you do with students, my students here?
I've had, Belinga Center has had some excellent programs in mentoring. And I've had little sisters and brothers who would come to my office when they had time. I found that with mentoring students, you almost have to go out and get them because they're so busy and their social lives are busy that sometimes they don't take advantage of the time that you would be willing to give them. But I have had some students who have come to my office. We've talked, we've had lunch. I've invited them to my house. Sometimes that's not always, that invitation is not always acceptable at the time that they can do it. But a few have.
You mentioned the Belinga Center. I have here a picture. I don't know which year this was. You received the award from the Belinga Center. Tell me a little bit about this award.
This award was given for scholarly activities as well as participation with the Belinga Center. And I'm very proud of the plaque that I have from them and also the associations that I have. I continue to have with the Belinga Center because in my contributions to the scholarship here at Wright State, I always designate part of what I give to the Belinga Scholarship. So I've enjoyed all the activities that I've had with them.
Okay. Now, given all of this, your experience in all these various areas and working with different students, different populations, and given the kinds of information that we read about racial climates on different campuses now that's currently going on in practically all of the state's large and small universities, how do you compare the racial climate on campuses today with, say, 10 years ago?
Well, I mentioned earlier that I think the more different students come in, when I say different, I mean culturally different students come into predominantly white campuses, there is a potential for more conflict. So I think just by the numbers that have come in, we're seeing a little more uneasiness, I think. Also, anytime there's an economic downtrend, I think that people worry about getting mine. And I think we see that now, that the economic situation is somewhat bleak at this point. And as you know, budgets are cut in higher education. So the amount of the pie is smaller than it used to be. And so I think sometimes the competition is there, and that can create some difficulty in relationships.
I was thinking about some of the recent articles that have been in the paper about Wright State and pertaining to race-based problems. And in the past 5 years, we've had several initiatives here at the university to try to help us resolve some of the difficulties that we've had in trying to get more black faculty and black students here. And as you say, the economy has a lot to do with it. Just the general economy has a lot to do with it. And so you wonder, what else can the university do? What other kinds of initiatives are there that can help to reduce the problems that we're having? And I'm hearing you say that, you know, when we have these external factors, which are very, very important, the economy and all, and being concerned about providing for yourself, it's very difficult, I guess, for the university to maybe make any more progress than what they're currently making. What do you think?
Well, I think it's very important that the top administrators indicate that this is a multicultural environment. This is how it's going to be. I think that should be the number one process. And I believe that is being done. You know, I know I've heard some things that are happening. It seems like the present administration is saying that this is a multicultural university, and therefore we are going to accept everyone as a human being, a participating human being. To me, that's important.
So then, even though the pie is smaller, there will still be slices in there for multicultural kinds of effort.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's exactly how I feel, and I think it has to be decided by the top. Somehow, if people know that the top is saying this is the way it is, that makes a difference. And just as the top administrators say that, I also think that deans and chairpersons, that attitude has to be for deans and chairpersons too, that we are a multicultural college, or should be, and therefore we will have representatives from the multicultural mix, because people of different cultural backgrounds do make tremendous contributions to universities. And if there are students representing those cultures, they need to have some models and mentors. And then Caucasian students need to know what other cultures are like. They're going to have to work for people of other cultures. They're going to have to work with people of other cultures. So it would be unfortunate to go out of here not having any multicultural experiences and go to a bank or to a company and your boss is African American or Mexican American or whatever, and you have had no experience to deal in a multicultural society. And that's what we are. We're a multicultural society. Therefore, university cannot afford to be monocultural.
That's very good. I appreciate your bringing it out that way, because that's as it should be. As I listen to you and observe you as you're talking about these various things, I am reminded of a very outstanding award that you received, and it's easy to understand why you got this award in 1987. This is the Trustee Award for Faculty Excellence. This was really, really a highlight for me here at Wright State for you to get this award. And it was especially nice to see you up there delivering the commencement address at UD Arena. That was really, really nice. Tell me about that particular day.
That really was the high point of my career. I have received maybe 12 or 13 different awards, but to receive this award from the university, it was just really high point, and to be able to speak briefly to the graduating class at commencement. And I understand that was the first time that a faculty member had been the speaker to the graduates. And I want to say that, and I don't think I've had this chance to say this before, I really appreciated the way the students listened to me. And I've been to a lot of graduations, and I'd observed students and some of the antics that they have, and you know how noisy they are when people are speaking. And I remember looking out at this large audience at UD, and so many people were paying attention, and it was quiet. And I thought, wow, I don't believe this, you know. And afterwards, I really had to almost pinch myself to believe that that was true. To receive this outstanding award from the university, and then to have the students seemingly accept the presentation from a faculty member. It was a high point.
All of us were really proud of you, and including the students. You know, they were saying, wow, and their parents too. You know, it was really an outstanding occasion there.
I see people now who remember me by the graduation comments that I made. So it was wonderful, and I won't forget that.
Given all of the wonderful things that you've done in your professional career and your personal life, if you were to had a chance to do things differently at Wright State, is there anything that you would do differently? Would you do more of the same or less than the same, or would you place more emphasis upon another area than the ones that you did? Is there anything that you would do differently if you?
I think the university has gone through phases, and we have behaved and delivered according to where the university was at that time. So when I came, as I indicated earlier, the university was in a period of growth and developing new programs and trying to make a name for itself. And so I feel that many of us worked diligently to help the university make that name and become the kind of university that we wanted. I think now that the university has grown up, as we often say, that it is in a different phase, that developing is not the most important priority now. Expanding, making the university more visible is probably where it is now. So if I were to come now, it would be a whole different ball game. But I will say that I think that if I were coming now as a new faculty, I would look at my skill that I was bringing in and focus on that. And I think that I would be careful not to overextend myself, to not focus upon the development of me as a faculty, because I think it's going to be much more competitive for promotion and tenure. I think the person has to do more research, therefore to be pulled off to a number of committees as I was in that development stage, probably is going to be detrimental to a new faculty who will have to compete for promotion and tenure, with probably the promotion and tenure committee looking heavily at what you've done as far as research is concerned. Now I'm hoping that a lot of still consideration is given to teaching, because we are a teaching university, but it's going to be less on promotion and tenure. I think will be less on teaching and scholars and service, and more on research and scholarship. And I think any new faculty coming in must realize that this is a phase of the university in which the university itself is trying to be visible. So one needs to write big grants, and one needs to do research. And so I would come in as a new faculty doing, at this point, what the university needs and what the university is going to reward.
That's a good point. But in addition to the emphasis going toward research now, and given the strategic plan that the university developed and adopted a few years ago, which strongly emphasizes service, community service, and outreach kinds of things, I hear that they're going to start looking at service differently too. and start rewarding it. I think you may recall that in those three areas, service has not always been rewarded as highly as some of the others. But because, as you say, their focus has changed, they're going to look at those areas differently. So in addition to research, they're also looking more at the types of outreach kinds of things that we're doing in the service area.
And I think that if a person is going to be doing service heavily, that should be carefully documented.
Oh, yeah.
And should be made as scholarly as possible, and you can make service scholarly.
Well, now that you're retired, we're all the way up to today. What has life been like post-Wright State?
It's been wonderful. It's been wonderful, but I have been very busy. I've tried to look at myself and grow. I'm still in a period of growth and development, and I've started to look at other areas. I'm very interested in children and the plight of children at this point in our history. So I am involved in a number of things in early childhood and in trying to get involved socially as well as politically with what's better for children at this point. So
sounds exciting.
I'm really excited about my new interest.
Yeah, your new phase.
My new phase.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Oris, for joining us today. It's been nice talking with you.
It's good to be here, Alice, and I'm very proud of your project.
Thank you.
The proceeding was a production by an independent producer. The views and opinions expressed were those of the producer and/or participants. They did not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of DATV, its board of trustees, or this cable system.